Hello, welcome to Q-SYS Control QuickStarts. My name's Jeff Perkins. I'll be your host today. In today's episode, we're going to showcase the state trigger control. In this episode, you can expect to learn what is the state trigger control and how it's different than the other button controls that we have in Q-SYS. I'll also show you how to have multi-state feedback in the block controller, the text controller, and how to supercharge the UCI with CSS. The key idea is that the state trigger offers precise expression of multi-state feedback via clever programmatic control of its dot value. Let's get started. Let's close this and let's open up the block controller here. Because here's what we've done. I have made a button here called BTN Power, and as you know, right, we have buttons. There are actually 4 different kinds of buttons that we have in Q-SYS. There's the momentary button, and the way a momentary button works is that when you poke it, boop, its dot boolean automatically gets flipped to true, and when you let go, boop, its dot boolean automatically flips back to false. That's how those things work, boop, 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 boop. And it works great as a ramp control for levels. You poke it, it ramps, you let go, it stops, it's beautiful. Similarly, we have toggle buttons. Toggle buttons, when you poke them, they flip the Boolean state and stay that way. And when you poke them again, they flip the Boolean state and stays that way. They're perfect for being a mute button. Think about it. Mute buttons need 2 states: muted, not muted. Pass audio, don't pass audio. Toggle buttons are perfect to be mute buttons because they just have 2 states. Alternatively, trigger buttons they don't change a Boolean state. When you poke them, all they do is, well, they trigger the event handler to go, go, go. That's what they do. Trigger buttons say go. Technically, trigger buttons trigger the event handler, and that's basically all they do. It's fantastic if that's what you need. So what about this state trigger? Well, the state trigger is it is a trigger button. In all of the ways that triggers are, state triggers are that same way. They don't manipulate the Boolean value simply by being pressed. All they really do is tell the event handler to be triggered. Except for that, there's the opportunity to do interesting things with that control's dot value. In fact, what I'm going to show you today is how to use the dot value of the state trigger to be able to implement multi-state feedback. Now, in AV programming, when do we need multi-state feedback? Well, a very obvious example from my perspective is a projector. Projectors don't just have 2 power states, do they? They don't. Historically, it's been really significant to actually know what those states are. Now, we've come a long way with laser projectors, but we still end up with 4 states. We wind up having off, and then when you press the power button, it doesn't just turn on. In fact, it goes into a warming up state. And then eventually it pops into an on state. Similarly, when you press the off button, it goes from on to cooling, and then ultimately to off. There are 4 states that we need to keep track of. And so what I've done today is, well, I have made the Perkins Projector 2000 as a device that we can interact with. It's a projector. It's a fake projector. It does everything we need it to do. On, warming, on, cooling, off. It works. It works super duper. And so let's dig into what have we done here. So I have a block controller that's going to interact with the projector. I have a power button, and I have a receive block, receive text box and a transmit text box where I am talking back and forth with the projector and the projector is talking back and forth with me. And most importantly, we have configured BTN power to be a state trigger, and we have set a min-max range of values 0 to 3. And if you're tracking there, that gives us 4 states, 0, 1, 2, and 3 for off, warming, on, and cooling. So let's look at the code. Let's open up the block controller, and it can take a second, but ooh, it was quick this time. That's great. So here is our script. Here's a little shakedown of how this script is organized. At the top of the page here, I have made a whole bunch of global variables, and I'm treating them as constants. Here are our 4 power states, 0, 1, 2, and 3, and we are corresponding them to off, warming, on, and cooling in English, because I happen to think that making these variables and making them meaningful to us as programmers, it makes it easier to read and understand what's going on in ways that looking at 0, 1, 2, and 3 are not as straightforward. It really helps us to understand the logic better than seeing the numbers, seeing the little snippets of actual words. So there's that. Additionally, the Perkins Projector 2000 is a wonderful device to control. If you want to turn it on, you simply ask it, you simply tell it, power on. If you want it to turn off, you simply tell it, power off. And then it responds with one of 4 responses, right? Of course, off, warming, on, and cooling, device off, etc., blah, blah, blah. And then lastly, I've also written here some variables that are representing what I want the legend of the button to say as I cycle through those states. So let's dig into the actual little script that we have written here. Okay, here we go. I have an event handler on BTN power. Every time I press BTN power, I'm going to call func send command, and I'm going to pass in the BTN powers dot value. Here's the function. We pass in the dot value, we call it arg value within the function. So if the value that's passed in matches the off value, send the on command. Similarly, if the value pressed in matches the on value, send the off command. Well, Perkins, what about warming and cooling? Those are transition states. We don't want to send commands in transition states. We want to just tell everybody, hey, just wait a second. We're transitioning. Just wait. Okay. Similarly, the other event handler we need to write here is for the string that we get back from the projector. So here it is. Every time something happens to the projector RX control, that means that we need to call func set button state and pass in that string that we get. Here's our function. We pass in the string, it's called arg state string within the function. So we compare the string that comes in with the power is off string. And if those match, then we set the dot value accordingly. We set the legend, we set the color, and I think this is really neat. We set the is disability appropriately as well. So if we are in off or on, we want to be able to poke those buttons. But alternatively, if we're in warming or cooling, we actually want to disable that button, meaning you can see it, but if you poke it, it doesn't do anything. That's great, because that means that, well, we're providing a courtesy to our end user of helping them to understand and set expectations of, oh, the projector's in a transition state. We should just relax and just wait a second. It's all okay. It'll be fine. So there we are. We're doing comparisons, setting appropriate feedback, and then we're writing a little message to ourselves just so we can see how this thing goes. So let's actually give it a shot. So split the screen, shimmy this over. Let's hit go. Now that we're going, you'll see that I have a big old power button. It's currently red and off. This is great. This is exactly where we want to start. When I press it, We send the power is on string and the device writes back, device is warming, and we get the appropriate feedback in our button. It's disabled, it's yellow, it says warming. And then we get the device on string. Now the button updates. Now it's green, now it says on, now it's active again. And if I click it, we send power is off, it says device is cooling, button updates appropriately. There we go. And ding, ding, ding. There we go. Now we are off again. As you can see, we have multi-state feedback. We're providing really awesome insight into the workings of the projector for our end user and providing that multi-state feedback that we're looking for. I really dig it. Of course, that's the block controller. We can do the same thing here in the text controller. Let's open it. And what we will see is that we have effectively the exact same script. Here are the constants at the top. Here are the functions, exactly as you saw a second ago. And here are the event handlers that we saw as well, right? It's 100% the same script. Hit pause, look at it. You'll see, yep, this is 100% the same script, except for I've commented out all of the color commands. There's a really good reason for that. Let's close this though, and let's see it work. There it is. Again, it's doing exactly what we wanted it to do, the way we wanted it to do it. And now it's on and active again. We press off. Now it's cooling. It's deactivated and takes about 10 seconds. It's how long the projector takes to cycle through. And there we are. Now we are off. Now, I said that there was a really good reason to not set the color. Here's why. We're going to create a UCI. Let's make that UCI. There it is. But I've also made a style sheet. Let's go to Tools. Let's go to Show Design Resources. I've made a CSS style sheet. And I've already installed it. That's good. So there you go. Let's look at the actual style sheet. Here's the style sheet. I've declared some CSS variables. Here's a whole bunch of colors. But these are particular to our example here, our state trigger buttons. I've designated colors for the 4 states, cooling, off, on, and warming. I've also set icons for the 4 states, 0, 1, 2, and 3. I know, whatever, I wasn't as consistent as maybe I wanted to be, but there it is. It's what it is. You guys are clever. You're keeping up. So let's roll down here and look at our buttons. Here is our button class. So we've said some things about the whole button class, but very specifically, we have created the state trigger button class. And notice in particular that we have this particular aspect of it called :value 0, 1, 2, and 3. 0, 1, 2, and 3 corresponds to our 4 states. So when that trigger button has the value of 0, it's going to have this color and have this icon. Similarly, when the value is 1, it's going to have this color and this icon, etc. So let's come back. I don't need the design resources anymore. So I have to apply the style sheet to the UCI. I can do that. So remember, I just installed the style sheet. I already written it. Now I've installed it. Now I need to apply it. I apply it by coming to, I select over here. Well, that way probably, because it's always backwards of what I think it is. So over here under the actual UCI, select it and then go the other way. Hopefully I guessed right that time. You come back over here to Style and let's apply the style sheet. Now, when I split my screen, and this is the thing that's neat, I'm not writing any code. I'm literally Control-C, Control-V. I've now dropped that button onto the UCI. I select it, I come back over here to properties, and I come to the class name, and I apply the state trigger, the appropriate class, the trigger button class to it, state trigger class button to it. And when I hit go, you'll see that my button here is now having a dynamic updating of colors and icons. We're still getting the visibility and the legend from the script, but we're getting colors and icons from the CSS. And I happen to think that it's really awesome, really fantastic. There it is. It's cooling. It's blue. We got the little swirly do icon. And now it's red and off, and the little toggle thing is swiped over. Here it is, proof of concept. State triggers are really fantastic. Remember, what are state triggers? They are the fourth kind of button control that we have in Q-SYS. It's a lot like the trigger button in that it doesn't manipulate a .boolean simply by pressing it. Largely, all it does is tell the event handler, go, go, go. And because we did interesting, clever things with its .value, we were able to set different feedbacks with the different values. And with CSS, we were able to set different colors and different icons dynamically. With that, I hope you've had a great day and that you've learned something and that you'll use the state trigger in one of your upcoming projects. Have a great day.